As the African captives packed onto the ship, fear and confusion were palpable. But among the group was a Mandinka griot, a master of storytelling and oral tradition. The griot had spent his entire life memorizing his people's epic stories and legends. Still, now his role was more important than ever. Despite the harsh conditions and treatment they faced, the griot refused to let the African traditions die. He brought knowledge of prayer and performing rituals that enslaved Africans would later use to form their own secret religious communities. The griot became a trusted leader, offering guidance and comfort to those struggling to survive. Finally, after weeks at sea, the ship arrived on the shores of the Americas. The enslaved people were sold into bondage and forced to work under brutal conditions. Still, the griot continued to share his stories and traditions of his people. Slowly but surely, African religious practices began to take root in the Americas, and it is all thanks to the brave and resilient griots who refused to let their traditions die on the Middle Passage. Today, the influence of West African religion can still be seen in Black culture and in the African diaspora religions that have emerged in the Americas. The griot may have been torn from his homeland and forced to endure unspeakable horrors, but still, he had succeeded in preserving the rich cultural heritage of his people. And in doing so, he laid the foundation for a new religious tradition that would come to define the identity of Black people in the Americas for generations to come. I'm Darius Spearman. Welcome to African Elements. In the tradition of the griot, this channel creates content that brings the past to life to help us understand how it has shaped our present. If you appreciate the importance of these stories, then this is the place for you. We rely on the support of our community to continue to bring these stories and perspectives to light. And you can help us by becoming a Patreon member, sending a super thanks, or subscribing to the channel. Today's content, From Griots to Black Preachers, the revolutionary connection between West African religion and Black identity. West African religions have played a significant role in shaping the religious and cultural practices of Black communities throughout history. Before the arrival of Christianity and other monotheistic religions, West African societies had a diverse range of religious traditions. Their emphasis on oral tradition, music, and spirituality characterized these traditions. Despite the disruption of the Atlantic slave trade and colonialism, enslaved Africans passed down this heritage through generations. West African religions are a diverse and complex set of traditions. One commonality is that these religions are deeply rooted in the belief in a supreme being, ancestors, and spirits that inhabit the natural world. Griots, often referred to as oral historians, are the keepers of West African religious and cultural traditions. They preserve and pass down their ancestors' stories, songs, and rituals through oral traditions. Whether as court officer or mere entertainer, the griot arrived in the American colonies along with the Mandinka, Dogon, Balinde, Daolafani, Wolof, Fon, and numerous other interior peoples to continue the West African tradition of verbal artistry, now called Black preaching. Griots played a critical role in maintaining the religious traditions of West Africa, as they were responsible for passing on spiritual knowledge and preserving cultural practices. In West African societies, griots often served as mediators between the human and the spirit world. Their storytelling was essential in educating and entertaining people. Enslaved Africans brought West African religious traditions to the Americas through the Atlantic slave trade. Their influence can still be seen in Black culture today. The Black faith tradition, which emerged during the period of slavery in the United States, was heavily influenced by West African religion. The Black folk preacher in the United States emerged during the period of slavery as a panegyric or praise poet in the tradition of his cultural predecessor, the West African griot. The griot, a figure who played a significant role in West African religion and culture, was responsible for preserving the oral tradition and communicating history, practices, and cultural values through song, dance, and storytelling. The influence of West African religious culture and the development of African diaspora religions is also evident. Vodou, Santeria, and Candomblé are all examples of beliefs that have emerged as a result of the fusion of West African religious traditions and the spiritual practices of the Americas. These religions incorporate elements of Catholicism, indigenous religions, and West African religions. Their focus on ancestor veneration and divination characterize African-based religion in the Americas, as well as their use of music and dance in religious ceremonies. No single formula is likely to explain all the possible connections between the slave's radical religious bent and his radical political ones. Yet at least one significant generalization can be made concerning the religion and purposeful violence among slaves. In combination, they represented the slave's most creative response to the contradictions and tensions within New World slave societies. Nat Turner, a slave preacher who led a slave rebellion in Virginia in 1831, was just one example of the radical and political bent many enslaved Africans brought to their religious practices. The Invisible Church was another such institution. This religious network existed outside the formal structures of the church. It provided a space for enslaved Africans to express their spirituality and autonomy. The Black Church has played a significant role in African American history and culture. During slavery, the Black Church provided a space for enslaved Africans to worship secretly and to express their cultural and religious traditions without fear of punishment. The Black Church also served as a center for organizing and resistance, and as a vehicle for cultivating leadership. The political leadership of African American ministers began in the antebellum era. During slavery, the most well-known leaders among Africans in America were clerics such as Nat Turner, Henry Highland Garnet, and Frederick Douglass. Nat Turner, who led the most publicized slave rebellion, was a preacher in his slave community in the Tidewater area of Virginia. After the Civil War, the Black Church continued to be a central institution in African American communities. It served as a place for community gatherings, political organizing, and social support. Many Black churches also played a crucial role in the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, providing a platform for leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. to deliver speeches and mobilize supporters. West African religions have profoundly impacted Black history and culture. Through the transatlantic slave trade, these religions were carried over to the Americas and served as the foundation for Black faith tradition and African diaspora religions. The Black Church has played a crucial role in African American history and culture, providing a space for worship, resistance, and community gathering. As we continue to grapple with issues of race, religion, and identity, it's essential to remember the rich and complex history of West African religion and its lasting influence on Black culture. I'm Darius Spearman. To our Patreon members and subscribers, I cannot thank you enough for your support in our efforts to educate and inspire. Help us reach even more people by sharing our content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the comments.